Hello, YouTube. This is Noah Tennant,
And I'm the multiverse Spider-Man.
and today we're doing a part two because you guys highly requested it. And today we're talking about the TV shows because somebody recommended us talking about the TV shows.
Alright,
Yeah, so we're going to be rocking with that.
perfect. I'm relatively versed on the TV shows.
And we're starting with the Amazing Friends, and those all the old ones, classic cartoons.
I've watched a good chunk of the older ones now, thanks to thanks to Disney Plus. So relatively know those ones for sure.
Your opinions on it?
Um, I've watched. It's like the 70s, 60s. Hard to
Yeah,
place that one. I've seen that one in its entirety now, and then I'm going through the 80s, late 80s, I think it is one,
yeah,
where it's just Spider-Man, or it was like a weird rebrand. Um, and I've seen some of the Amazing Friends. Um, I really, Amazing Friends, I never got super into. I don't know why. I just didn't when I was watching it when I was little. I didn't really get into it. Um, the oldest one has some charm to it. I think that one sticks in my brain a lot because I like rewatched a couple of those episodes growing up like a lot. Um, so that one's like cool. And then the '80s one so far is it's about the same. It's like it's okay. There's some campiness here and stuff, but some of the villains like are like really cool. Like when they do like a comic book villain, it's cool. Like
yeah.
they do 'em- I would say they do them justice. Um, is it like is it like for everybody? No, it's like not. They're not like animated series, that like somebody's like, oh, I really want to watch like a Spider-Man show. Like, which one should I watch? Like, none of them would probably be on my recommended. They'd be like, oh, like they're fun if you're into like cartoons like as a whole, like they're cool.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, I don't, I wouldn't like go out and be like, yeah, dude, you need to like watch these ones first. It's just like, yeah, it's fine. I'd imagine
Then
most probably have the same mind on that one.
yeah, no, it's like you can't recommend any of those classics because
Yeah, like they're fine. Like I said, for what they are, they're nice. And I a lot of times like put them on just like in the background when I'm doing other things. Like if I'm working on something or whatever, I like to have them on like kind of in the background because I do enjoy them. But yeah, I like I said, I think there's like the four episodes I grew up rewatching are the only ones from like the old '60s or '70s era that I would like recommend people if they were like, yeah, I want to get in it. I'd be like, all right, we'll start with these four. If you dig these four, then watch the whole series because it's basically the same thing.
yeah. What do you think about the '90s?
The '90s is my favorite. That's where my mask is today. So I was like, oh, we're
Yeah,
doing a TV show episode. I got to dress the part.
yeah,
Um, yeah, the '90s is my favorite. I, I just love. I mean, partly I'm partly biased, obviously, because that's the one I grew up watching. So like, obviously, I'm like, that's the best one. Um, but of the ones that I have kind of watched, I would still rank it easily in the top three. I don't know. It's just the way that it's written. It doesn't feel like dumbed down for kids at all. I love the art style. I think like the animation is really good. The acting's really freaking good. The writing's good. They do well like adapting a lot of the stuff from like the comic book to the show in a way that works, but does feel like faithful to the characters. Um, and there's so many like fun crossovers, which is like at least in the '90s felt like was a big thing for Spider-Man. Those were always my favorite books. Like when I was a kid, I was like I wanted to read all the crossovers, either like just Spider-Man or the crossovers. I didn't really want to deal with anybody else. Um, so for me, it was great, and it was just cool because it made it feel very like yeah, this is Spider-Man show, but it does take place in New York, so you're gonna see these other characters. It's just cool. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love these one.
I personally love the '90s one because the character development.
Yeah,
You
it's
bond with the characters easily.
right. Yeah, no, it's they did a great job with it. So as far as the ones that I've seen, '90s is still my number one. I don't know if like objectively speaking it's the best, but it is number one for me.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Yeah. And then the limited series.
Oh, dude. Unlimited's like Unlimited's rough. I enjoy Unlimited. I mean, I'm making a suit from Unlimited. That's how much it affected me growing up. Like so like but it but on its own, Unlimited's really rough. I think arguably Unlimited's one of the worst, and like I'll probably get flack for that. But it's one of the worst objectively speaking because if you look at it like just on its own, it's like it starts very kind of like if you watch the animated series going into it, it's fine, but also it's like it technically doesn't have anything to do with the animated series. Technically speaking, it's its own thing. It's not the '94.
Yeah.
Um, so unless you watch the '94, which again, if you watch the '94, then okay, but you could watch any Spider-Man series and more or less be able to watch Unlimited. The problem with Unlimited is that it ends on a very random like cliffhanger, and it's just like, well,
What
cool,
happens next?
right. There's no, you know what I mean, and so like that's like one big issue, and then the other issue is like, while Unlimited's like super cool, it relies on people being like, all right with going outside their comfort zone because it doesn't take place, in any sort of really, um,
Realistic place.
right. It doesn't take place in any sort of like pre-established place. Like it's not New York. You're like, sure, it's a metropolitan, right? It's pseudo in the future, and like they're gonna like introduce these characters, but then they're not gonna be the same. So because you're gonna have like the Green Goblin, but it's like it's not
Not the green.
Goblin, so it's gonna be up to the viewer at that point of like how much can you sort of like how much can't change are you like comfortable with, I guess,
Yeah.
so like on the one hand, I love it because, like I said, growing up, I adored the suit. I played that freaking suit in the PS1 game all the time. Like, I really enjoyed the series because for me, it was a continuation. So I was just like, yeah. Um, but as a standalone now, having watched it all the way through, I'm like, well, crap, dude. Because by the time it like really gets going and like you're really kind of at that point invested, and you're like, all right, well, screw regular Earth, I don't care. I'm all right. I'm in. I'm ready. It ends, and then you're like, well, that was a waste of time. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like,
It never it never shows where Peter comes back or not. That's important.
right. And then it ends like on a bomb blowing up or something. And it's just like, yeah, like they do a lot of cool stuff. I like who they picked as Spider-Man because he's the same voice actor as the PS1 game, and I really liked him. And so like a lot of the elements are really cool, like him going to another, like all the story beats and stuff are cool, but the fact that it ends on like on a random cliffhanger and it is a little more out there, like arguably to me, it's like the worst series you could kind of just like recommend somebody watch because it's just like, well, it's going to end abruptly and it doesn't take place on Earth, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of
That,
hurdles for somebody to jump.
yeah, I told somebody asked me about Limited and I said the same thing. It has a weird ending. You don't and it needs more.
Right? Yeah.
And they're like, I don't believe you. I'm like, oh, you'll see. You'll see. You'll see.
Right. Yeah, exactly, dude. Like I said, the animation and Spider-Man's new suit, everything's like great, but like you said, it does just kind of like it just ends, and and already it has that like we were talking about like that struggle of like, well, it doesn't take place in anything familiar, so already like you're fighting an uphill battle to win people over. So
No offense, I can see that in the 2099 timeline more.
right, right.
That would make more sense in my head.
Right. You could, yeah, and they could have. Well, Miguel was around, so they could have. I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe that was. And as a kid, that's kind of what I thought too. I was like, oh, but no, it's not because it's like a counter. It's the same Earth. But I was like, but this looks like 2099. So like, why? You know what I mean? So yeah, especially nowadays. If they were to like do it nowadays, then yeah, they probably would make it 2099, and I think it would go over just fine. You know, because you could have some interesting dynamics there for sure. Or
If
just
Disney's watching this, you have to give us the copyrights because that's our idea. I had to say that now because it is
fair
our
enough.
idea.
Fair enough.
I love the suit. That is one of my favorite suits of all time.
Yeah, the suit's cool. Like I said, a lot of the aesthetics of the show and stuff, some of it is a little weird, but like it's cool. It's just, yeah, like you said, it's a show that goes nowhere. Already kind of expects the audience
It's
to
a
just,
little rushed too.
well, yeah, yeah, I'm sure, yeah. So it's just like it has a lot of uphill battles. Like I said, like it's not a show I'd really ever recommend to anybody. It's like, if you like the animated series, then you'll enjoy the little bit that you get, but just know going in that it's going to end very like abruptly and randomly, then it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's just like it's a yes and no situation basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We had to go to Spectacular Spider-Man now.
So Spectacular. I didn't watch much of Spectacular. I couldn't get into it when it came out. Um, I haven't gone back and like at this point, I just haven't gone back and watched it because now I'm just like now I'm just petty about it, I guess, where I'm just like, nah, screw Spectacular. I don't want to watch it. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna board the hype train now. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, well,
Try
whatever.
it out, maybe.
Yeah, like I watched it like when it first, or I watched some of it when it first came out, and I didn't get into it because coming off the '90s series at that point, I was just like, I mean, I don't, and I still don't. I don't like the art style. I still just like,
It's a very unique style and different.
yeah, like I mean, like I said, like objectively speaking, is it a bad show? Like, no, and even I couldn't even really, like I said, I haven't seen it proper, so I couldn't even really give a definitive sort of like how I feel about it. Um, everybody loves it, so I have to assume that it's like it's good. Um,
I have mixed feelings with it, if you want to be
Yeah,
honest.
I
I
just,
do.
like I said, like when it first aired, I just was like, I couldn't get into the art style because it was coming off of the '90s series, and I was just like, why did they? I was like, I just wasn't into it. Um, and yeah, and from the bit that I watched, like I said, I just was like, I mean, this is fine. I was like, but the art style is just killing me. My brother was super into it though, so I mean, like I said, objectively, I'm sure it's great. I just, like I said, it just wasn't one that I watched or got super into.
No, I would recommend you watch it, and then you can have an experience with it first.
Mm,
That's what I would say. That's just
mm,
my personal opinion.
yeah, no, I mean, definitely at some point I will give her a go. It was just one of those ones where I was like, I mean, I don't know. It was just one of those things where like I haven't seen it, and then at this point now everybody's so hype about it that I'm just like, man, I don't know if I really want to just like get on the hype train now. I was like, I don't know. I'm like 30. I don't know. I was like, uh. So at some point it's on the list of like watch it eventually. But I don't know. Is,
My opinion, it's a little corny sometimes. I mean,
mm, I could see that.
because the cartoon style and then the
Yeah, I could
quotes.
see that. I could see that for
I
sure.
mean, that's what it basically is.
Uh, yeah, I
And it
mean,
gives you the best description of it. The theme song's good. I like the theme song. I love the
dude,
theme
that theme song though is probably my favorite, honestly. Uh, the '90s being obviously a close second, but that Spectacular theme song, man, I've learned to play that on the bass guitar just because I was like, dude, this song is dope. I want to play this song. So
I ask my dad
that's
to play it every time when I'm in my suit, and I'm like, yeah, do it.
and then, no, that song, yeah, that song is
I can't play
fantastic.
an instrument in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that song is fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just and then I forgot I skipped over MTTV's version of Spider-Man
Oh
TV show.
yeah, the MTV version. Yeah, I was wondering if we're gonna even talk about that one.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's so weird, and it was so weird because like as a kid, it kind of felt like it was like the grown-ups version of Spider-Man. I was so baffled because it came after the '90s series, and I was like, wait, is this like is this supposed to be a sequel? Like, what are we doing? Did I miss like some of Unlimited? Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so weird. Like the
The
art style.
style, the art style is very unique, and then it has the Spider-Man Toby font.
Right, yeah. I was just like I was so confused by that show when it came out. Um, I've watched it all in its entirety, but like a couple of years ago. And it's not bad by any means, but it definitely feels like that 2000s MTV take on Spider-Man. Like it doesn't necessarily feel like
You don't feel the connection fully, but
yeah, I don't know that it feels like I don't know that it and like I said, I watched it like years ago, so I could be way off
the
base.
last time I saw that, it was like I think when it came out. That means
Yeah, I rewatched it a couple years ago just to like rewatch through it. So I don't know. I guess I was just in that phase of like rewatching stuff, and I just remember being like, I mean, this is cool, and like, yeah, it's Spider-Man, but something about it doesn't feel like Spider-Man. Like some of the, I guess presumably the writing and the imagery does feel very much like it's through that MTV lens, where
yeah,
it's like this is how MTV views Spider-Man. It's like, well, I mean, you're not entirely wrong, but
yeah.
maybe
Then it has like pictures. Like I'm looking at a picture right now, and it looks like the Toby suit. But then you look at MJ, for example, you see
yeah,
the ultimate MJ. I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
really?
exactly. It's yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, it feels
See,
like very much. Yeah, it feels very much like a show that was like, this is
mixing.
this is Spider-Man, right? And but it was MTV basically being like, this is what Spider-Man is, right? And it's like, well, I mean,
You're kind of
50-50.
there. You're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
there.
like you kind of got there, so I can't really fault you. It's another one that, like, again, like I probably wouldn't recommend people. Like, it's because it's like I don't think it has like as abrupt of an ending, if I remember right, but also it doesn't have like a satisfying overall arc or anything. So it kind of ends up on par with Unlimited almost in that regards, where it's like, I mean, they both change stuff. They're both kind of like weird in like an art style way. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like it's an acquired taste. Not everybody's gonna like it, understandably. So it's one of
Yeah,
those things where it's like, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. I was like, it's kind of cool if you want to watch like an episode or two, but like after you watch like an episode or two, you're probably good. Like you don't need to see the whole thing.
yeah. Just it's just a unique show, at least.
Yeah, it's like it's super unique. It's just it's an acquired taste because it's like a unique show. So who knows?
Yeah, just and then the Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh,
On
Ultimate.
we're going Ultimate now.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah,
Um.
you speak your full opinion on that. I can respect you on that.
So Ultimate is interesting. Uh, I think I have a unique sort of like I have a unique relationship with that show because like a lot of people hate it, which is fine. I get
It's a
it.
love
Like
and
I
hate relationship, in my opinion.
yeah, like I get it. I don't particularly have a problem with it. I watched about half of it, and during that time I was watching it with my girlfriend, kind of like in the background. Um, so it's interesting. I think you have to like what people don't seem to realize about Ultimate from just the people that I've talked to and what I've just seen online from people like freaking out on, you know, comments and
Yeah.
whatever. People don't really kind of seem to understand like the perspective that you should be necessarily having when you watch that show. Like it's not a show really designed for Spider-Man fans per se. It's designed for kids. Like ultimately that's what it is, right?
And that's why he's breaking the fourth wall, and that's
right.
why.
When you look at the show as like this is a kids Spider-Man show, I think it's fantastic. It introduces a bunch of other the Marvel characters to these kids and does a pretty good like none of the acting is like egregious, I don't think. If you can get past like the fourth wall breaks, which to me is less about a fourth wall break and more about Spider-Man's inner monologue, and that's just how they chose to adapt it rather than
Yeah.
being like, rather than having it be like this weird thing because again it's a kid show. To me, that's how I interpreted it. I was like, oh, it's just his inner monologue. We're just doing as whatever. Like, it didn't bother me as much.
It's like a
Um,
modern twist to it, basically.
yeah, I don't hate the art style. A lot of the character designs are really cool. There are elements, of course, that I don't like the whole Spider-Man being a part of a team thing. Like, it's just kind of like, I mean, sure, it's fine, but like, um, historically, Spider-Man's a character who usually like avoids like long extended team ups or durations, or even when he does them, it's kind of like reluctantly. So it was kind of like it was just weird to be like, well, here's Spider-Man, and we're gonna put him in charge of a bunch of like new heroes, but they're all roughly the same age. So then it just kind of feels weird in a way.
A little
Um,
awkward.
yeah, and I watched some of like the Web Warriors era, but that's about where I stopped watching. And at that point, I think if you enjoyed the show initially, then you'll enjoy when it goes like Web Warriors and I guess finishes. Um, but at that point, I was already kind of like off the ride as far as like caring. I guess I was just like, I mean,
I
it's
stopped watching it when they did the Spider-Verse done with the Spider-Verse. That was my.
yeah. So it's like
I don't
it's
know when that was, but
yeah, that was kind of like that Web Warriors era. Like that's like the start of it. And then rather than him be a part of like this new Shield team, it's like Spider People team, which I think is would have been cooler kind of from the get go. Like I think you should have probably just started with that because that seems like a better concept than him just like
and it
taking care
makes
of
more sense with Web
yeah,
Warriors.
then like training half of the heroes for hire and then White Tiger and stuff. It just kind of feels like really random and they almost feel like two different shows because it's just like well yeah
This
it takes place in the
happened.
same,
This
yeah it
happened.
takes place in the same universe but he's like on a completely different team now. So I think it's fine for what it is. Is it like an amazing Spider-Man show or anything? No, but I don't think it's like particularly egregious. I do think it's. I mean, and like it's subjective,
It's
but
like that.
it's relatively funny. Like I watch it, I'm like, that's a good one. It's a good one.
Good quip.
But
And good job.
yeah, like I watch it, but it's like it's subjective. But I watch it, I'm
I
like,
learned some of my lines from doing like when I'm in my Andrew Garfield suit. I
yeah.
do
So it's
something
like,
just let him say evil doer. And
yeah, it's
it's
not
funny.
bad. Like, and like I said, it's all perspective, right? Like I've been doing charity for 5 going on 6 years, and so that was like the show that was airing during that time. And so all the kids that came up to me, that was their version of Spider-Man, and it doesn't invalidate their version. That's still Spider-Man. So like for me, like I said, I have a different perspective with it. I don't have like this big like, oh, it's the worst thing that ever happened to Spider-Man. It's like no, because I saw how important that show was to all these kids
Chill.
growing up, and them being exposed to all of these Marvel characters and Spider-Man. So like, yeah, sure, some of the versions of Spider-Man aren't right, but at the end of the day, it got those kids interested in those characters, and so it's like, well, not, so it's like, yeah, like I get it, dude, like, but also I'm 30, and a lot of the people complaining about it are like in their 20s, or like you're not in the demographic. So it's like it wasn't made for you. It was made for these small kids, and in that regard, it worked fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I don't have a hate relationship with it because I met kids every week that were like, Spider-Man, do you know Anti Venom? Do you know Agent Venom and do you know Iron Spider and all these people? And it's like, oh yeah, I know those guys. And because I didn't like sit there and be like on my high horse and like crap on the show, I had seen the show, and so I was able to be like to bring that character better to life for them and be able to be like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. What you're saying is valid. I didn't sit there and be like, well, that's not correct. And it's like, well, it's like it doesn't matter
You
what
can't
you.
say that to a kid, and they're like,
Yeah, it's like it doesn't
"What?"
matter what you think. It matters what this kid thinks. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm sure like other versions of Spider-Man is the same. You know what I mean? Like '90s is my favorite. And if somebody went and like was like, well, none of this is actually accurate, I would be like, well, I don't care because
It's my favorite.
this is my Spider-Man. So yeah, I don't have a hate relationship with it. Is it like objectively good? I don't know, but like,
So. It's so.
but I don't hate it.
Then, of course, lastly, our current Spider-Man TV show.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. I'm not even gonna.
You
I've
didn't see it, the anime looking like one.
yeah, I've seen.
Bits
I've
and pieces
seen.
of it.
I've seen maybe an episode. I've seen some clips on it. I've seen. Yeah,
There's some on YouTube. That means.
yeah. I know like the art style, but like, and I know some of the story from like other people briefly mentioning in it or whatever. But as far as like otherwise, like that show I'm completely blind on and know virtually nothing about. Like it feels like if I were to say anything about it, I guess is like it seems just like another version of doing the Ultimate series, but like let's keep it focused around the different spider people instead of all these other people. And I think if that's what you're going for, because I know Miles is in it and Gwen, if I'm not mistaken, is in it. So
Yeah,
it's like,
I've seen it because kids.
right, right. So like,
That's my
from my
excuse.
yeah, from my understanding, it seems like it's just doing kind of what Ultimate did, with taking more cues from the MCU, because that I mean, again, that's just how Marvel works. So it's like,
Now these days, I guess.
well, yeah, I mean, now it has to. Anytime something happens in the MCU, it inevitably ends up in the comic or somewhere. Um, so I mean, it seems like again, like it's gonna go in that category of Ultimate Spider-Man, where it's like it's great for kids, but if you're like a fan of the character, then no, you're just gonna be like annoyed the whole time, which is fine.
I watch it in the background because then I can hear what kids are understanding of Spider-Man, like you
Mm-hmm.
said.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I would do a walk around the neighborhood as Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't do charity work anymore, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah. I think like if you were doing, like I said, if I were to, because right now because of the pandemic, I haven't done any charity. So like,
That's why I just walked
it's,
around the neighborhood
yeah.
when I
Once
get
that
the chance.
once it like lifted, then like it would be something I like objectively watch. But again, like you said, it would really only just be to be like, how are kids perceiving Spider-Man nowadays? But from what I
Character
gather,
study. Character study, basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah. From how I gathered, is it's just like it's just another step in the ultimate direction. So, which again, it's not for us older fans. It's for the kids, and
Yeah.
it seems to me like it's working, or like it's kids are liking it. So I mean, I don't know.
We can't judge.
Right, exactly. Like we're
Yeah,
not.
we won't.
No, it doesn't.
They probably when they see the '90s and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So
old
it's like,
Spider-Man. That's old Spider-Man." No.
right. So it's like
In my head, I'm like this the whole time.
right. So it's like I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. I'm not the guy to tell you.
Another one should tell you. I act like all of them, then a mixture of all of them, and then the kids
Yeah,
can
yeah.
recognize
So
some parts of it, and they're like, "Oh, you're your different Spider-Man. You're this Spider-Man."
yeah, I've always operated under the guise. If you're doing charity work, um, specifically, is like
When
you,
I'm not in
you
charity work, I act like it's just all of them. But if I'm
right.
in
Well,
charity, it's
right. Either
you have
way,
to act like the character you're in
right.
the costume of.
Yeah, I think it. And it like, and that goes in like a whole other thing. But like it kind of depends. For me and like Spider-Mans who are doing like charity work, it's good to know a bit of every of the Spider-Man, especially like the current one. And then you just like you said, you do an amalgamation of or do how you think Spider-Man is, but then as soon as a kid mentions one of those, then it's like, okay, now you have to be able to be that
Yeah,
version of that
Spider-Man.
character. So for sure. I've also been
Yeah.
meaning to watch the Japanese Spider-Man. Someone
Oh,
mentioned.
you'll. It's a very interesting show. You would like it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of it, like objectively from like the plot lines and the aesthetics and the things that I've heard. It's just like I would like to own it, to then watch it rather than be like, I'm going to go on YouTube and watch it. But
No.
like finding it on any sort of physical medium that's like legitimate is seemingly impossible. So it's just like,
Yeah. What do you do when
yeah.
it's
So it's
not
like, I
on?
don't know. I think I've seen like one maybe legitimate thing, and it was so expensive. I was like, well, crap. Then I guess I'm just gonna have to
I
watch
don't
it.
know if it's on Amazon or not.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, I would
I
like to see
watch mine on YouTube and
this.
then some DVDs.
Yeah, that's all you can do at this point.
They just need to make a Sony Plus and they have all the old stuff we grew up with.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because like most of them are on Disney, but then that one isn't. Which I mean, I guess I get because Toho would own the rights to it. Um, so I'm sure that's probably why it's not on anything. So I don't know.
Maybe in the Japan, check the Japan Disney Plus. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe yeah, maybe I'll just have to check there and be like, oh, it's on there.
That'd be the weekend.
Right.
That'd be my weekend, just watching that.
Yeah, yeah.
I only watched mine on YouTube, and my friend luckily had some VHS of Japanese Spider-Man. I'm like, okay, lucky. I'm
Oh
lucky.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
lucky.
have to. Like I said, I haven't been able to really dive into it,
If
but
I ever
eventually,
find any, I'll send them to you.
yeah.
If
Let me
I have
know.
to.
Yeah, let me
You get
know.
the mail, and you just see a VHS and say,
I'll have to find a VHS player now. But yeah, no, for sure. That's one, and I've been meaning to go back and watch like the Hammond like movies or movie. Um,
the '80s live-action TV show. We forgot
yeah,
to
I've been meaning to
mention
go back and like watch that too.
the
Um,
original TASM because they call it the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm like the original TASM.
right. Yeah, so I've been meaning to go back and watch that too, and just kind of and just see what like it's not
Don't get
something.
me.
Oh,
I
it's
love
not something
that
I'm gonna
costume.
recommend, but who knows? Mm.
Yeah, I personally like that costume from the '80s live-action show.
Yeah, I do. I dig
I want
it.
to wear it. I want to wear it. That's what I want to
Yeah,
wear.
I'm like
I
I
love the
plan
eyepiece.
yeah, I plan on doing a Japanese Spider-Man, and it's like it's the same suit. It's just the masks are different,
Yeah.
uh, which I've learned thanks to Godzilla Mendoza, who did like a whole
Yes.
dive.
Yes. That
Yes,
guy is a legend.
he knows
Here,
everything.
I
Like
want to. I'm trying to find his. Like, I've been trying to message him on Instagram. Say, please come on my
that's
YouTube
like
channel.
that's half of the stuff that I know is because of him. I mean, his the video that he does in that Dogface is in it, and Dogface made my lenses actually. So like anything that I know, a lot of the stuff that I know, I probably got at least a portion of it from him. So, but yeah, I would love to do the Japanese Spider-Man and the Hammond suit because like, yeah, I don't know, they have like a certain charm to them. Like they're not, you know, they're not amazing, but like they look like somebody feasibly could make them. They look good enough, like from
Yeah.
my, you're like, oh, that's not bad looking.
Yeah. It's just like crazy. I'm like, I want to make those. Those are because that costume looks awesome, and I would wear it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, those are cool suits for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna like try to do a Xavier or Godzilla.
Those are.
He's up there, but it'd be awesome to talk to him.
Time. Yeah, he's just like an encyclopedia. He just knows so much.
Yeah, I want to ask him questions, and I have like ultimate questions from Spider-Man. Yeah, I want to see if he knows them. I'm like, I asked Jim Sorenko if you heard of him, the comic artist. He
Yes.
did the Ancients of Shield comics. I met him,
Hmm.
and he was looking at my suit, and he's like, very textured. I'm like, oh, you have to see my new one. I emailed him, and I'm like, you have to see my new one, man. He's
Yeah, I
like, I
met.
can't wait when this pandemic. He's like, tell me. He's like, I can't wait for this thing to be over. I'm like, can you do an interview on my YouTube channel? He's like, I don't know how to use Skype and everything. I'm like, oh, that's a downer right there. Jim Sorenko says that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I met one of the Spider-Man artists. He stopped me and my girlfriend because I was like in Spider-Punk, and like I was like, oh, I've seen your art. And the lady was like working his booth, like, yeah, he worked for Marvel or whatever. I was like, oh, Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, duh, he's got Spider-Man right there. But like, I felt like kind of bad 'cause I was like, I have no fucking. I was like, I've seen you around, but I could not be able to place XYZ. I'm not that good yet to be able to
Yeah.
see. Be like, I know who that is.
And let's see if I have a picture very quick, and you can see him working with me and him together. There's a one.
Oh yeah, right on.
He's a nice guy. He's a very nice guy. But
Dope.
yeah, I think that's what we covered. All the shows.
Yeah, I think that's all. I think that's all of them that I can think of off the.
If you guys notice we missed a show, please comment below, because
Yeah,
we would.
yeah. I think that's all of them though. I mean, unless you like start to get into like the Broadway, which is just
Maybe for another episode.
yeah, the Broadway. You could do like a whole freaking.
Hour-long video of it.
You could do a whole discussion on the Broadway and how that's weird.
Turned out, oh, yeah, that was interesting. I like the costume. That was awesome.
No, the costume is fantastic for the most part. It's just
I never
every
seen the Broadway show, but of it, but
yeah, everything else is something else. But yeah,
okay,
did it.
that,
That's
that,
everything.
that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe.
Do your do the thing with the comments and the shares and the follows and the
Yeah,
bell icon. Don't forget the bell icon.
yeah, do that. If you want to see more multiple Spider-Man again, just please DM me or because he's just in text away on here,
I'm on the old web. The old web.
the interweb.
I'm on the
Need to-
old interweb.
I had to thwip over there in New York City next time.
On the whip. Let me just shoot
I
off
need
some
to get. I
ideas.
need to give you a clone called Thwip. Just
Yes.
saying. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it.